Hey everybody, welcome. Welcome to live Q&A. This is the global community for adult survivors of childhood trauma. Any type of trauma in the form of abuse during childhood or over a long period of time. You could be living with complex trauma, CPTSD symptoms, anxiety, dissociation, PTSD, certain phobias. These symptoms can be manifesting themselves in your life in many different ways. One of the ways that these symptoms manifest themselves in our life is we have trouble it ranges from one extreme to the other. So either we're over here and we're able to feel too many feelings very, very deeply, or we're way over here and we're struggling to feel anything. We're struggling to feel our feelings deeply. We're struggling to cry. We're having trouble emoting. Sometimes emotophobia is a result of us being in a fight, flight, or freeze mode for long periods of time during our childhood. And what happens when we're in our childhood and we are stuck in a traumatic situation, an abusive situation over a long period of time, in order for our brain to protect us, we dissociate, we go somewhere else. And so since our brain becomes adept at going, oops, this is too much for us right now. Danger, Will Robinson, danger. And so we go to a dissociative place or a happy place, or we escape and go somewhere else. Or this isn't the type of dissociation I'm talking about where you're driving along and then you say to yourself, I wonder if I already passed that exit. How did I get so far? I didn't even realize, like, you're just sort of somewhere else. That's sort of a harmless dissociative state that many people experience who have, and that's not from trauma. That's just the brain being in a state of, I've done this so many times before, I got this. And so what happens with children who endure childhood trauma is they're in the trauma, they're in the abuse so often that the brain, or so severely, so deeply that the brain goes, I got this. We're going to go somewhere else because this is too much to bear. And so the result of that in adulthood is that when we are experiencing daily life and it becomes too much, or we watch a movie that can be very, very sad or cause us to emote, or we're in a situation with a friend or a loved one, and we have a fear of abandonment, a fear of rejection. We're experiencing rejection. We're experiencing abandonment. We're experiencing vulnerability. Vulnerability is what can trigger dissociative states in trauma survivors, because our brain and our body has deduced that if we wouldn't have been vulnerable as children, we would not have been abused. And the bottom line is that may or may not be true. We need to challenge our thinking. There are some people in life that are not necessarily vulnerable, but they still get exploited and taken advantage of and harmed. It doesn't necessarily take a vulnerable person for a predator to prey upon them. It does happen. Are children vulnerable? Yes. Were we vulnerable when we were younger under the power and lordship of our family of origin? Yes, we were vulnerable. And so what can happen now in adulthood, if you're having trouble crying, there are a lot of physiological reasons behind it. We have neurotransmitters. We have different ways that our hippocampus gets destroyed in some ways. They have brain scans of a child that was raised in a healthy attachment. They had good enough parents. They attached to their primary object. They were able to experience love, affirmation, attention, comfort. Their emotional needs were met. The brain scan shows a typical, natural, healthy amount of activity in the brain scan where the hippocampus is. If you look at a child's brain side by side with this brain scan, a child that did not securely attach, the emotional needs were not met. there was turmoil, there was neglect, there was abuse, there was stress. It was stressful on the child. The hippocampus does not have the activity that this child's hippocampus does. So a lot of adult survivors of childhood abuse, different forms of abuse, it's very traumatic on the brain, and the hippocampus doesn't process things, and there's not as much activity there. And then we go into the amygdala, and when the amygdala is hijacked, when there's a huge amount of cortisol and adrenaline running through, and the trauma is experienced in the right hemisphere of the brain, and words are found in the left hemisphere of the brain, which is the phenomena that happens when we're in the midst of a traumatic situation and someone asks us a question and we're kind of silent, and then all we can figure out how to say is, I don't know. 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 And it's not that you don't know, it's that that's the only words that your brain can find at that moment. So that type of thing that happens, the 2 brain scans that I just described, along with other physiological implications as a result of your childhood trauma, could be what's pointing to you struggling to cry. The good news is, down in the description section of this video, right above the comment section, if you're on a replay, there are some videos that I found that walk through step by step by step and educate us on different reasons why we have trouble emoting, reasons we have trouble crying, and ways to help us access those emotions and give ourselves permission to cry and to feel feelings deeply. And remember, if you're on this channel and you're living with CPTSD symptoms, one of those CPTSD symptoms is emotional flashbacks. And as we've been talking about lately over the past several months, emotional flashbacks have one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to protect us from grief, unprocessed grief. Why? Because grief is painful, and the brain processes emotional pain the same way it processes breaking your femur, breaking your ankle, experiencing a stab wound, a gunshot wound. It's physical pain. It shoots up things to your brain. Danger, danger, we're going to shut down. I have a colleague of mine that was describing today when she had kidney stones, and it had hurt her so badly that she was vomiting, and her body was beginning to shut down and expel all of its fluids everywhere. You lose control of your bladder, you lose control of your bowels, you lose control of your gag reflex. Everything just comes out of you. Your body shuts down when you're in a tremendous amount of pain. And your brain doesn't know the difference between emotional pain and physical pain. So since it can be so devastating for us to experience pain, when we get close to maybe crying, the brain sends us a signal, danger, danger. And then we shut down. We shut down. Sometimes we get numb. Sometimes we immediately dissociate. Sometimes we get distracted. Sometimes we go to our favorite coping strategy of choice, whatever those coping strategies might be. Sometimes they're maladaptive coping strategies like drugs, alcohol, and other forms of addiction or self-harm. Sometimes it's an eating disorder. Again, maladaptive coping strategy, self-harm. Sometimes suicidal ideation, maladaptive, self-harm. Those are not necessarily ways that we want to deal with the emotions that we are being flooded with. Those are not necessarily ways that we want to use as coping strategies that are adaptive, that help us in our adult life. Some examples of coping strategies that do help us in our adult life, that can move us closer to being able to experience our emotions and our feelings in a healthy way and heal. There's coloring. There's any form of artistic expression, music, singing, screaming, movement, walking, journaling, reading, anything that's expressive in nature. If your trauma was in childhood, at young years, sometimes you can release emotions that have been pent up in you by doing non-dominant hand finger painting or watercolors. There are videos down in the description section of this video that link to other videos on the internet that talk about why it's hard to feel, how we can get ourselves to feel, and letting you know that you're not alone. You're not alone. It's not just you. This is something, it's a thing. It's a thing. Like, I'm not the type of person that has trouble crying. I was the type of person that had trouble accessing my anger. I would move from confusion. Why would they do those horrible things to me? I was just a little child. I would skip over the anger, over the grief, over all the feelings, and I would move immediately to intellectualizing it and rationalizing it and showing compassion. Oh, well, they were only doing what they were taught, what was modeled for them. They didn't really know how to be good parents, and they weren't taught how to be compassionate and how to be loving and kind and how to cope with being a parent at a young age or how to take care of me. And so I would go from confusion, skip over all my emotions, which is the same thing as being unable to cry, and move strict over to a coping strategy that works for me, which is intellectualizing. And my second favorite coping strategy that works for me is humor as a redirect. And then I would just crack a joke, or I would go, well, makes sense. That's how they were raised. And then I would just be done with it. So me moving from confusion to compassion is very, very similar to you watching this video saying, why can't I cry, Athena? Everybody tells me that I have to be able to cry in order to heal, but I will never heal because I can't cry. I've never been able to cry. I'm 20, I'm 30, I'm 40, 50, 60, 75 years old, Athena, and I've never cried. I've only cried once. And so what happens is there's videos, like I said, down in the description section. You're going to dismantle the pre-existing thoughts and programs that you have surrounding the topic of crying. And then we're going to move through and we're going to do these things and access these areas of our life that will help us to emote. So that's what we're doing. That's why you're here. Now that I've described it, I'm going to go and I'm going to see how many of you guys are here, and I'm going to greet you and I'm going to answer your questions. So if you're here on a replay, please access the little button that says live chat, and you'll be able to see questions and comments coming in real time so you can participate. Please participate if you're here live on the video. And if you are here live and these videos are helpful for you, it would mean a lot to me if you gave them a thumbs up. It would mean a lot to me if you subscribe to this channel and click the bell notification. I also host daily recovery support phone calls for survivors of trauma who are going through and healing from CPTSD or PTSD or any type of trauma that they've been through. And I'm a co-host on those calls. I have people that I've reached out to that are going to be helping us lead those calls. Matt Pappas leads these calls. There are over a dozen of you that show up every single day on those live calls. And there's a link if you would like to join those and learn more about those down in the description section of this video as well. But for right now, I'm going to go over and just greet everyone, say hello, and just a special thank you to Matt for moderating. A special thank you to Poppy for posting all of the crisis care information and hotline information in the chat box for everyone. If you guys would just send a thank you to Matt and to Poppy, just letting them know how much we appreciate all they do in our community. That would be amazing. They're volunteers and they're here every week, and it's awesome. So special thank you to all of you who are sending in questions right now. Thank you to Dana. Thank you to John Harvey. Thank you to Sabra and Miss Beach Boxer and Guayanas. And I'm going to go ahead and begin reading questions and answering questions. I'll accept your questions for the next 12 minutes. Any questions sent in the next 12 minutes, I will likely get to tonight. And then any questions that are sent in after that, I will try to find them in the comments section and answer them throughout the week if I can. And if you would like to get plugged into a free Facebook support group that's private and anonymous and secret and no one knows about it except for those who are in it who have been personally vetted, you can please send an email to lisa@cptsdfoundation.org, and we will begin the process of getting you welcomed in so that you can receive the free support that you deserve. It's a whole bunch of other people who have been through what you've been through or something similar, and no one will ever minimize you or be abusive towards you or deny your truth or re-traumatize you. It will be a very supportive place for you. We do our very best to make sure it's a supportive place for you. So I'm going to just kick back here in my chair. I'm going to have a sip of water. I'm going to read through your questions, and then I'm going to begin answering your questions. So thanks for your patience while I pause. Thanks for your patience in the silence while I get some water. Okay, so I've read through your guys' questions, and I will do the very best I can to answer these. I'm not an expert in being unable to cry because I am a crier. You guys have seen me cry here live on these videos, not on behalf of myself, but on behalf of other people's trauma that they've experienced. But what I will do is I will suggest what's worked for me and for others who have trouble accessing other emotions, or if they have had trouble crying as well. And the reason I linked up those videos down below in the description section of this video is because I was anticipating not being able to answer the questions to your satisfaction about the topic of not being able to cry, because it's such a big, 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 big topic. So if I don't answer your question satisfactorily, I believe that's the proper word, I would encourage you to watch the video by Jody Amen below, the video by Deep Waters below. It's not Deep Waters, it's Healing Waters. Healing Waters, I think, he's awesome. He's really helpful. He's a psychologist. I'm forget, maybe it's Healing Waters. Anyway, there's a Katie Morton video, there's a Jody Amen video, there's a Healing Waters video, and then there's a brief little how-to type video that's like a couple minutes long. All of those videos, you could actually finish them inside a 20-minute span, maybe a little over 20 minutes. And I know that that will perhaps answer your question better than I might be able to answer your question, but I will do my very best. So Dana says, I'm extremely tender-hearted toward others, but I find it almost impossible to cry for myself. I might feel tears stinging my eyes, but then I cut it right off. What can I do? So first of all, Dana, I want you to know that I have experienced what you are describing, and I too am extremely tender-hearted toward others and very empathic towards others and sympathetic to what it is that they're going through, and very intuitive in the way I experience what it is that other people experience and the way I can sense what it is that's going on with them. And when it's applied to me, or even younger version of me, like if I'm with my therapist, I have a disconnect, a total disconnect. And I'm learning that the reason for this is because whenever I would either stand up for myself or show emotion or cry or just show up authentically, like just authentically show up as me when I was a child, I would be scolded or wipe that look off your face before I smack it off. I'll knock you clear into next week. What are you crying about? You don't know what crying is. You'll never know hunger. You'll never know pain. You'll never know anything. You have a perfect life compared to the life I lived. I would naturally respond to the moment in childhood, and it would be met with rage or ridicule or condemnation or anger or physical violence or something else that was hugely inappropriate and abusive. And as a result of that, Dana, I have trouble naturally, spontaneously crying in the moment for myself. It feels like the authentic thing to do. It's on my own behalf, but I'm completely disconnected, and I usually will dissociate, go somewhere else for a second, or I'll crack a joke, or I'll focus on someone else, or I'll do anything but be fully present in my body. Because when I was a child, me authentically emoting, especially if it was tears or pain or anything like that, it was a precursor to something that was horrific, terror-filled, anger, abuse, ridicule, threatening, something extremely abusive and painful. And so it takes a long time to untrain yourself from those programs. Those are programs. It's like you're programming a computer. The way my computer was programmed by my family of origin was when I would respond authentically, which would be in like pain or confusion, I would be immediately reprimanded, smacked, hit, yelled at, threatened, all of the above, who knows. And so it's not safe in my body to authentically emote and cry on my own behalf. That's the only explanation I have. I don't know how to fix it other than to do what those videos down below say, which is to reprogram yourself and deconstruct all of the programs that were put into you and relearn what it really means to cry or to emote. Relearn physiologically what makes sense to your brain now as an adult, what's really going on in your brain and in your body when tears need to come out, because they're very cleansing, and from a physiological perspective, it's actually necessary for our body to work properly. Jody Amen mentions something that is super duper duper helpful, you guys. I should have turned my fan off. It's blowing my hair into my face. It's driving me crazy. And it drives me crazy when if I look back at my videos and I see I'm just sitting here playing with my hair the whole time, and it's because the fan is on and it's blowing my hairs in my eyes. So forgive me if I'm just going like this the whole time. It's just going to drive me crazy, right? It's going to turn into some sort of a meme, just me going like this. So Jody Amen does something really key. What she does is she explains everything that I was just explaining to you. And you know what? Even if I try to sit here and I try to ad-lib what she does and what she says, I'm not gonna do it justice, because she just explains it so perfectly. So there is a Jody Amen video in the description section below that I would encourage you guys to look at. And maybe Harriet, if you could pop up the YouTube card for the Jody Amen video that talks about what I'm about ready to describe, that Jody Amen talks about. If you could pop up the Jody Amen link to her video here in the YouTube card, that would be great. Thank you. So what Jody Amen says to do is, when you feel yourself begin to cry, or you feel the lump in your throat come, or something come, and maybe this isn't Jody Amen, maybe it's a Katie Morton thing. I can't remember who exactly said this, because I watched so many just so we could talk about this topic. So do you grit your teeth? Do you close your eyes? Do you swallow really hard? It's Katie Morton. Katie Morton's the one that says this. Harriet, I'm sorry, not Jody Amen. The Katie Morton video. YouTube card. Sorry about that. Try to locate in your body where you go to when you get ready to cry, but you can't. What happens is we tell our brains somehow that crying is not an option in that moment. Do we clench our fists? What Katie Morton does is she holds it in her shoulders. Usually she'll go like she'll feel herself like do that, right? And so in her body, where the tears go, rather than pouring out, she holds all of that sort of thing that's happening in her shoulders. Like that's where it goes. And, or she'll go like, and she'll swallow. And so she'll feel it here. And so another recommendation that she has is journaling what it means to cry. You journaling. And she recommends doing this by yourself, especially if you have trouble crying in front of your therapist. If you have trouble crying with your therapist, she recommends doing this by yourself and journaling what it means to you to cry. What does crying mean? What does it signify? What comes up for you when you say the word crying or tears or crying? Like, do other words come up? Cry baby. Wah, gotta call the ambulance. Immature, weak, ridiculous. Do you get a sick feeling in your stomach because your tears were met with a nonverbal cue from a primary object of something that looks a little bit like this? Like the eye roll and the exasperation, the disdain, the disgust, the withholding of love, the you no longer exist in the room. I'm going to look the other way now and pretend that you don't exist until you stop emoting and acting like you're going to cry. See, what happens is we have to deconstruct what it means to us to cry, the pain attached to it. The whole reason we can't cry is because it's not just the act of crying, it's everything else that it means, everything else that it means to us, all the things that are attached to crying. Did your grandfather pretend that you weren't in the room any longer and only pay attention to your siblings if you were the one that cried? And so crying was no longer safe because you didn't want to be invisible any longer. I mean, there are all these implications. And one thing is certain. If you have trouble crying, the trouble crying likely came as a result of trauma. Boom. Rule of thumb. Foundation. Didn't necessarily have to come in childhood, although most of the people on this channel are adult survivors of childhood trauma. Doesn't mean that, you know, you began to be unable to cry as a result of childhood trauma. Let's say you used to be able to cry, but then you were 27 years old and your father died on your birthday and everyone else was able to shed tears, but you weren't. And so ever since your 27th birthday, you've been unable to cry. Well, losing someone, particularly a close loved one, especially on your birthday, knowing that it's going to affect you forever, like that's a traumatizing situation. So when we have trouble crying, it's as a result of trauma, unless you were born without tear ducts or something like that. Again, I'm not a medical doctor. Please, you know, seek medical care if you're here. But I hope that was helpful, Dana. I'm really appreciative that you asked the question. John Harvey says, I can have trouble trusting. And when the trust is gone, it's gone for good with me. And I can relate to this deeply, John Harvey, because my trust that I had in many people who were close to me, the trust I put in them, they became what I later found out, they were not trustworthy. They were not worthy of my trust. In fact, my trust that I had in them was betrayed. And betrayal is a deep, 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 deep wound that has a lot of implications. What we end up doing if the betrayal happened at a young age is we cease to remember it exactly how it went down, which is that someone else betrayed our trust. And what we do is we turn it around on ourselves and we somehow tell ourselves, I can't believe I did whatever I did that would cause that person to betray me. And we bring it on ourselves, especially if we were young when our trust was betrayed. If we trusted someone and they exploited us or they abused us, or, and this is definitely the case within interpersonal relational trauma between a child and an adult. If you were a child and you were abused by an adult, or if you were a child even abused by another child, that trust bond was shattered and broken, and you were at a young age. So when you're young, you don't have the ability to go, oh, well, that's totally their deal. They're just the jerk and I'm fine. And I'm going to go find other people to trust and have relationships with, and my life's going to be fine. No, like when you're a child, you're going to die. Like you feel like you have nothing, you have no one, your world is over. And you just, because you have hormones and emotions, and when you're little, you don't know the difference between others and you. If something bad happens, you're bad when you're little. It's just the way your world works, because you don't have the ability to discern what is something that you caused and what is something that was done to you, separate from something that you caused. You don't have the ability to discern the difference between those two things when you're younger. No child does. So I definitely relate to that, John Harvey. And I just want to encourage you that that might not always be the case forever, even though that is the case right now. I was very much of the school of once the trust is broken, the trust is gone forever. And I've actually had that be healed over time and through discernment and me working on myself. So that's not always the case. I'm not saying you need to go trust people. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that it's possible to heal betrayals of trust as long as you work on yourself and the other person takes responsibility for that betrayal, and you both work together in rebuilding that trust. And over time, as we continue to show up for ourselves on a daily basis, because no one's going to show up for us, we have to care about ourselves. That helps us remain congruent with ourselves, and then our whole body begins to trust us more because we're showing up in a way that is safe, and we have the ability to create safety in our life and develop safe relationships. But that happens over time, and it happens as we heal our wounds that were caused by other people. So here we are healing from something we should never have to be healing from, but here we are doing it anyway. And then it affects every other area of our life, which is extremely frustrating, but we're doing it anyway because no one's going to do it for us, and we care about ourselves. We're showing up for ourselves because we want to live a life worth living. We want to experience happiness and joy and kindness and all the feelings, and enjoy healthy relationships. And we can do that as long as we do the work, as long as we work on ourselves and we learn to develop safe relationships. And that's when we talk about the handy dandy safe people, safe traits versus unsafe traits, right? On a lot of the other videos. So thanks for sharing, you guys. Saber says, I only have trouble crying with my therapist. I have been with her for over a year and I fully trust her, but I can't seem to let tears happen in her office. Is this normal, in air quotes? Any ideas to help? I want to be able to heal that way at some point. I do have ideas, Sabra. I do have ideas. So for the answer to your question, is this, in air quotes, normal? If what you mean by normal, is it normal for you to respond that way? And the answer would be yes, it is very normal for you to respond that way if you were abused by someone that was close to you personally, like a person in your family of origin at a very young age. And so you trusted this person, you looked up to this person. They were someone who was a caring figure, an authority figure, someone who was supposedly a nurturing person or should have been nurturing. If your abuse happened within the context of a relationship that I just described, then it is, in air quotes, normal for you to feel this way with your therapist. And there are ways where you can heal that. And that is journaling while you're by yourself about what it means to cry and what has happened previously in your life when you cried. What did you learn about crying when you were growing up? Has that ever changed? Is there any evidence to the contrary? When I cried, when I was little, I would, and then has it ever been different? Now that I'm an adult, when I cry, I feel this way, et cetera, et cetera. And you sort of try to connect the dots and you find a way to feel the feels, even if you can't cry the tears in front of your therapist. But as you do the work away from your therapist, while you're in the privacy of your own home and you're just with me, myself, and I, and you're fully present in your body, you will be able to bring what you learn to your therapy appointment and express to your therapist what you learned about yourself as it pertains to grieving and crying. Because remember, the only way to heal CPTSD symptoms is through grief. The whole reason CPTSD exists is because the anxiety, the dissociation, and the PTSD and the emotional flashbacks are covering up pain that is attached to unprocessed grief. So once we are committed every minute of every day, whatever it takes, I am going to address the unprocessed grief that I have regarding things I wish were different in my childhood, or things I wish were different within the context of my abuse. Things I wish were different in the past however many years of my life. And then as we work through that, just by ourselves, we can bring that to our therapy appointments. We can bring that to our general practitioner. Also, ding, 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 please don't miss this. I forgot to mention this earlier. One reason that is across the board, a reason that people will have trouble crying 100% of the time across the board. I'm not saying that everybody, but let me finish my sentence first. So if you are on antidepressants, medication, and antidepressant, and you have trouble crying, it would be worth a conversation with your psychiatrist, your doctor who has prescribed your medication, to let them know that you're having trouble crying. It could be just a tweak of a milligram or so, a few milligrams, whatever, of your antidepressant. And then you might be able to access the tears that you desire to have. You're watching this video because you can't cry and you want to be able to cry. So I'm not saying that every person in the world that is on antidepressants has trouble crying. I'm saying if you are watching this video that's titled, "Why Can't I Cry? Why Can't I Feel Deeply?" and you are on an antidepressant that has been prescribed to you by a doctor, it would behoove you to have a conversation with your doctor, letting your doctor know, I can't cry and I want to cry. What can I do to help me cry other than change my dosage? Because I like my dosage. And then your doctor might give you some suggestions, or maybe you could watch all the videos down in the description section that I put there for you. And you could do all those things. And if that still doesn't help, then you could talk to your doctor and say, I tried all the things that you mentioned and all the things that I've been learning in my support groups, or, through my support system that I have in place, my team here, I'm part of your team. Like, we're all here, we're a team. And I still can't cry. Maybe if you could adjust my dosage, and maybe I can express some emotions, cry some tears. And if I'm okay, then we'll leave my dosage the same. But if I want to go back, then you'll know why I'm doing this, because I just have a desire to cry. And I'm thinking that this might help. So that's my recommendation. Again, this is not medical advice. You need to talk to your doctor. You need to do what's right for you. But those are definitely things that will help. Sabra, I hope that was helpful for you, because you're not alone. This is a thing. This is something that's very, 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 very common. Miss Beachboxer says, I saw myself triggered to a small child with tears rolling, but I felt numb after verbally attacked. I couldn't stop. How? I'm not sure. I don't know if I'm understanding it. Let me try. And if I can't get this, I sincerely apologize, Miss Beachboxer. I might just be misunderstanding your question, and that's probably my fault, not your fault. You've communicated clearly, but I just don't understand it. So Miss Beachboxer says, I saw myself triggered to a small child with tears rolling, but felt numb after verbally attacked. If I'm Miss Beachboxer and I saw a child crying with tears rolling and I felt triggered, and then something happened and I was verbally attacked because I was triggered by the young child crying and I couldn't stop crying, and then there's the how with a question mark. I don't really know. What I will say is this: it is going to happen at some point in our lives, if it hasn't already. We are going to, if we are here on this channel and we experience childhood abuse, at some point in our life, we are likely to see another child and feel triggered by that child. That child could be at the same age as we were when we were abused. We could not even put two and two together, and we don't even understand why we're feeling just very emotionally not okay. We're in an emotional flashback. We're triggered into a PTSD flashback. We're unable to get out of the place that we're in. We're unable to be fully present. And the only explanation is because of we're in the presence of this child and we don't know why we're feeling the way we're feeling. So if it hasn't happened to you yet, it's going to happen. It's only a matter of time. 100% of the people that I've ever come in contact with that experience childhood abuse have at some point in their life been near a child, seen a child, whether it was in a movie or read it in a book or in person or on a subway or on a bus or on a train or in an airport or in a restaurant, in a grocery store, and they felt triggered. And the only explanation was that they were thinking and they flashed back to their own childhood when they were abused. And it is okay that you felt triggered, Miss Beachboxer, is what I'm getting at. It's okay, and it's a natural response for you to feel emotional and perhaps upset by seeing another child crying. I had some very triggering, situations happen with one of my dear friend's daughters, who incidentally looks just like me when I was little. So you're not alone, and I hope that was helpful. Guayana says, I had this issue many times in my religious mission. Almost everyone would cry for spiritual experiences, but I was unable to cry. How can I explain this to others? So, Guayanas, what I'm interpreting this to mean is that while you are involved in a religious mission trip, you're going on and you're handling you're ministering to other people, and other people are able to shed tears as a result of a spiritual experience they're having, but you are unable to experience tears as a result of religious experience, and other people are possibly thinking that you're not experiencing what they're experiencing because you're not emoting the way that they're emoting. And then you're asking, how can I explain this to them? I feel like there is a violation of a boundary here, not by you, but by other people. Other people sort of putting expectations on you to be able to emotionally respond the way they emotionally respond, and treating you different or judging you because you're not responding emotionally the way they're responding emotionally is a violation of a personal boundary. You are a sovereign individual. You are able to act and conduct yourself in a way that feels safe and healthy to you, as long as it's not at the expense of anyone else's well-being. And no one needs to expect anything else from you. If you now, if we take it away from other people and take them out of the equation, and you're saying to me, Athena, I would love to be able to emotionally respond to spiritual experiences the way other people emotionally respond. And you're not worried about explaining it to other people because no one else deserves an explanation or needs an explanation. You deserve an explanation. You need an explanation because this is you're dealing with. No one else needs to like, that's their problem. That's their issue. If we're talking about you, then I would deploy some of those tactics that I mentioned earlier, like asking the question in the solace and the quiet of your own soul, in your own prayer time, in your own spiritual time with God, or with who you know God to be, and perhaps pray about this or journal about this. Perhaps deploy some of the tactics that I mentioned, like journaling in the quiet of your, in your own quiet time. What does crying mean to me? What did it mean when I was younger? What do I feel about crying? What does crying do? What does it mean to cry? Who cries? When is it okay to cry? When is it not okay to cry? What do other people think about crying? Do I feel the same way about crying? And really deconstruct it so that you can find the reason that's hidden as to why you're having trouble expressing this emotion. It could be something so simple as, in the culture that you were raised in, or in the home that you were raised in, people who cried didn't get dessert and everybody else got dessert after dinner. I mean, it could be something that simple. Because for a child to be treated differently and everybody else gets dessert and they don't, is like life-shattering for them. And so that's trauma. So remember, when we are unable to process tears and shed tears, and we're unable to emote, it's always a result of trauma. We're shutting down for some reason because it means something. If I cry, it means fill in the blank. That's 100% of the time what's going on if we can't cry. Unless you're on an antidepressant and it's a mood stable, you're on a mood stabilizer, you're on an antidepressant, and it's your body's physiologically unable to do it because it's being told not to by medication. So I hope that was helpful, you guys. Guayanas, I want you to experience a spiritual experience in your own body and in your own mind that feels the way you want it to feel and not the way other people expect you to respond. Because I know what it's like to be in the church. I know what it's like to be doing mission work. And other people are responding certain ways. They have different things that they say, different ways that they pray, different ways they hold their hands, different ways they have their body, different ways that they look. Do they close their eyes? Do they keep their eyes open? Do they raise their hands? Do they put their hands out? Do they hold their hands together? Do they smile? Do they frown? Do they, are they joyful? Are they loud? Are they soft? I mean, there's so many cultural norms attached to spiritual experiences that I really want your spiritual experience to be one that is special to you, that is authentic to you, and not necessarily one that you need to manufacture so that you fit in with other people. Because again, I've been there, and that is a violation of my boundary. And I didn't know that it was a violation of my boundary until I started doing this work. And I'm like, wait a second, like I don't need to do these things that they're expecting me to do. I just don't. I don't have to pray the way they pray. I don't have to act the way they act. I don't have to do what they do. I have a personal relationship with God, and I am deeply rooted in my faith. It is my faith that has gotten me through this trauma and why I am alive right now and not dead. And it doesn't have to look like her faith or his faith or their faith. And I'm grateful for that. So I'm hoping and praying that you can experience that and be okay with it. And again, if it's just your curiosity of like, why can't I cry in the midst of a spiritual experience? I feel like I want to, and then it just doesn't come. Then it could definitely come from childhood and perhaps a withholding of love, or excuse me, a response to you naturally emoting when you were younger, and the response was not one that you could handle as a child, because it was an adult response to a way that you were emoting naturally. Hold on, I'm gonna get a drink of water, you guys. Okay, thank you. Katie Lee says, Poppy actually helped me to connect with my emotions. It was a false belief that I wouldn't be able to stop crying. And that kept me stuck. That kept me stuck for years, Katie Lee. Oh my goodness. Once I believed that I could cope, I began to feel. Me too. I honestly felt at one point in my life, you guys, like if I actually started crying, I would never stop. I felt like I would die of a broken heart. I really, really thought that I had so much to grieve and so much unprocessed grief, excuse me, that if I started, the waterworks would just never stop and I would walk around like a weepy mess. So I stuffed it and it kept me stuck for years. I seriously was just stuck. I wouldn't even leave my house because I was afraid if I would leave my house, I would cry and I wouldn't be able to stop. It was like so traumatized. It was when my son left for the military. And you guys, I'm not joking. I've told Matt this before and I will tell you guys this. In 2010, in May of 2010, I had been dating my husband for like, I don't know, a month and a half. And my son left for the military. I'm a single mother. He was my only child. He turned down a college scholarship to enlist in the Marine Corps during a time of war. Before we'd pulled out of Iraq, people were dying every day. And he was like, I don't want to go to college. I want to go into the Marine Corps. And I was like, I trust you. You're going to be amazing in the Marine Corps. I'm proud of you. I trust you to make your own decisions. I'm cheering you on. Good for you. I love you. Because in that moment, I could choose to exasperate him, emasculate him, take his choice away from him because he was 17. And I could say, no, you're not going in the Marine Corps. Over my dead body, you're going to the Marine Corps. You're going to go to college because you earned a scholarship and that's what you need to do and you're not going. And so I had a choice to make, you guys. I had a choice. I could damage the relationship, my most important relationship in my entire world that I had spent 17 years building. Or I could release it, tell him I trusted him, cheer him on, allow him to make his own decision, release him, trust that God was going to protect him, and watch him flourish and launch into adulthood so he could be a separate individual from me. And that was probably one of the hardest decisions I've ever made in my entire life. I'm totally going to bawl my eyes out right now if I allow myself to, so I'm going to swallow my tears. I'm feeling it in my throat. I'm feeling it in my shoulders a little bit. I'll allow myself to cry later. I just want to continue talking and doing this video right now. I don't have trouble crying. I have trouble stopping my crying. So what I'm trying to say is it's all happening in real time here, folks. Welcome to live TV. So in May of 2010, when my son left for the military and he was gone one day, and I just never knew if he was ever going to come back. Every single time I left my house, whether it was to go to the drugstore or the grocery store or to go get gas or to go to church or to go to the beach or to go out to breakfast or to go to Subway or to, go for a walk, whatever. Every single time I left my house, I would run into someone. And the first words out of their mouth were, how's your son? How's he doing? And like, I didn't have an answer for them. I was so deeply grieved that my son was gone, didn't know if he was coming back, and they cut off contact. You don't have contact with your child, regardless of the fact that he's 17. You don't have contact with him while he's in basic training for 13 weeks. He was with me every day for 17 years. And he was gone. Nothing, zero contact for 13 weeks. He could write letters. I have a stack of letters that he sent me, and he has a stack of letters that I sent. I wrote him every day, sometimes twice a day. And it was traumatizing to have that. Like, I felt like it was just ripped. My heart was ripped from me. And so I, rather than crying in public every day, chose to not leave my house. And so in 2011, 2012, I only left the house to go to work. And that was in the beginning of my marriage. I got married, and the first time I saw my son, besides graduating basic training, he showed up on my doorstep on the morning of my wedding to walk me down the aisle. I was a mess. It was my wedding day, and I wanted to be excited and celebrate the fact that it was my wedding day. But all I wanted to do was hang out with my son and play Uno and eat ice cream and go to the movies and eat Milk Duds. And like, I just wanted to do kid things. Like, I just wanted to be a mom. I didn't want to be a bride. Like, I was like, talk about dissonance. Anyway, I had a lot of trouble. And then he left. He was only here for less than 24 hours. And I spent the next 2 years just grieving and figuring out how to show up in the world. I wasn't a mom anymore. It was different. I'm a mom, but it's a different role, and it's weird, and it's empty nesting, and it's abandonment, and it's trauma, and it's pain. And then a whole bunch, like then I had a situation where a whole bunch of my childhood sexual abuse memories started coming back to me. And that's when I really delved deeper into my trauma recovery from childhood sexual abuse, which is how I found all of you guys here. So, but it all started with me not being able to cope, is what I'm getting at. I was unable to stop crying. And I believed that I would forever be unable to stop crying. Katie Lee talks about that it was a false belief that she wouldn't be able to stop crying. I didn't know that that was a false belief, because for me, it was real. I knew what it felt like to not be able to stop crying and just work through the tears, drive my car through the tears, wiping my tears, weeping the whole time while I'm driving. I can't even see the road because I'm crying. Like, I knew what that was. I was literally overcome with grief. And I didn't know that it was attached to all of my sexual abuse memories and abandonment from my family of origin. I didn't know that it was all connected, because while I had been studying and healing and been on a trauma recovery journey at this point already for like 10 years, I had only skimmed the surface. I didn't really go deep, 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 deep. I didn't go deep, 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 deep till 2013, 5 years ago. So the last 5 years have been like deep, deep, like, you're going to figure this out. Deep, really deep. So I resonate deeply with what you said, Katie Lee. Last question. Oh, two more questions. Kira says, I have been subscribed to Infinite Waters for about a year now. I was just watching him today. He has so many helpful videos. Yes, it's Infinite Waters. So he has a video down below. He's a psychologist. He's awesome. Infinite Waters. He's amazing. I hope you guys love him as much as I do. He's such a beautiful, amazing soul. He's just amazing. He's amazing. I hope you guys love him. And what he says about feeling feelings and about crying and about just everything. I hope that you find him helpful, because he really is just an amazing soul, and he has a lot of fresh insights that I wish other people understood or subscribed to, because he's just a tremendous asset to this planet. He's amazing. Heroes Don't Wear Capes says, I have such layered defenses, especially humor, that keep me numb. Is there any way to break through these? Heroes Don't Wear Capes. You and I always have very similar experiences. We have a very similar life experience, and we show up in the world in very similar ways. I'm typically the goofy, silly friend. I'm the one that laughs. I'm the one who will, people want to take a nice, pretty photograph, a nice photograph, like that photograph of my family. I'm usually the one in the picture that will go or I'm the one that'll be just silly and ridiculous. And it's just because I think I do feel things very deeply, and I probably have some sort of subconscious block in allowing myself to feel things deeply, because when I was younger and I authentically showed up as my authentic self, it was met with rage and anger and abuse and neglect and withholding of love and things that were extremely painful for me. And so I'm working through that. And Heroes Don't Wear Capes, I know that you will make it through. Those suggestions that I listed early on in the beginning of the video, and then the suggestions listed in the Jody Amen video and the Katie Morton video and the Infinite Waters video, and then the ridiculous other little how-to video, which I found extremely helpful. Also, I think that those things will help you. I think you'll be able to break through. But one thing, last thing, and I'll let you go. however old you are right now, however many years you've been on this planet, it's taken you this long to become the way you are right now. The way you are right now, the way you show up in the world today, didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen in a moment. So please be patient with yourself as you transition from the way you show up now into the person that you want to be, or how you show up differently in the world and process emotions differently. Please be patient with yourself. Please allow yourself the space and the grace to learn and grow and make mistakes along the way, because we're going to overcorrect. We're going to be like, well, Athena said to try this, and then we end up crying all over the place, like ugly crying in front of people, and we don't like that. And so then we'll be like, whoops, I overcorrected. Maybe I'll go back to doing this, and then I'll slowly do this. You know what I'm saying? So please just allow yourself the grace and the patience and the space necessary to show up differently in the world in a way that feels safe to you. We didn't become this way overnight. It took years and years and years to create the way that we show up in the world now. So I just hope that you guys will be patient with yourself as you find ways to show up differently that feel more congruent with who you are and who you desire to be. So thanks for being here, you guys. I will always be back here every single Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. If you want to be in closer contact with me, I do co-host daily recovery support calls live every single day, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. And you can learn more about that by going to cptsdfoundation.org. And yeah, I just received a text message from a colleague. Yay, I'm going to be collaborating with some other YouTubers, you guys. We're going to be doing some different types of videos about healing, and it's awesome. So look forward to that. And yes, but if you're interested in the daily recovery support calls, head over to cptsdfoundation.org and look into that. Otherwise, I'll just see you here every week, every Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, okay? You guys are amazing, and I'm glad you're showing up for yourselves every single week. You're here every week. It's amazing. No one's going to show up for us. No one's going to rescue us. We have to rescue ourselves, right? So have a great week, you guys. I'm so grateful that you're here. Thanks for watching. And if this video is helpful and you wanted to give it a thumbs up, that would be awesome. If you wanted to subscribe to this channel and hit the bell notification button so that you don't miss a video, that would be awesome too. The more thumbs up we get, it offsets the thumbs downers, because the thumbs downers are always here. You know that. They're always here somewhere. Okay, I love you guys. I'll see you next week. Bye.